He's got a show to do, man. You get him bloody, we'll ruin his pretty coat, okay?
Hey, let me tell you guys something, you know? I come down here, I'm going on the air and everything, and you come out here and try to make it I'm some kind of bad guy or something. I just had a long personal talk with Gildy, kind of smooth things over, okay? So look, I don't need you don't need me. I'm going to take a hike. How do you like that? I'm a rambling guy. I think I'll ramble. Hey, good luck with the opening, Belushi. Be seeing ya.
And you're not going anywhere until you do that opening.
Hey, nobody tells me what to do.
Yeah? Now say it, pal.
I'm not going to say it.
Say it!
Live from New York, it's Saturday night.
Hello and welcome to the Not Ready for Primetime podcast. We're Brad Robinson and Gary Seath.
And you're not.
This week we're talking about Season 2, Episode 14 with host Steve Martin and special guest Lily Tomlin with musical guests The Kinks. This episode originally aired on February 26th, 1977. Brad, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy holidays to you and to all. Hope they were nice and good.
Thank you. They were wonderful. How about yours?
Oh, blast.
Great. Well, Brad, we should remind the listeners that the deadline for the promotion is this coming Friday, January 5th.
That's right. If you didn't get it on your Christmas or holiday list, we are giving away 3 autographed copies of Saturday Night, a backstage history of Saturday Night Live, autographed by, not by us, of course, but by the authors, Doug Hill and Jeff Weingrad. If you haven't already, go back, listen to that episode. I mean, regardless, you should listen to that episode because Doug and Jeff were fantastic and so much better than listening to us two knuckleheads. But listen to the episode, and in order to enter the sweepstakes, email us at notreadyforptpod@gmail.com. You have to answer 2 questions. 1, just simply tell us what your favorite story that Jeff and or Doug told on the episode. And 2, what our best bits were. And that was episode 36, season 2, episode 11, the Ralph Nader episode. So listen to that, drop us an email, and let us know what our best bits were and your favorite story from Doug and Jeff. We will randomly pick 3 winners. And yes, autographed copies of their book, Saturday Night, Backstage History of Saturday Night Live.
If Santa Claus stiffed you this year, Brad and Gary won't.
Santa Claus, Hanukkah Harry, whoever might have gypped you, we got you covered.
Also, what better way to celebrate the new year than to rate and review one of your favorite podcasts, or even ours?
That's one of your best segues, I got to say. Well done. Well done. But yes, we hope you guys have been enjoying season 2. We've been having a blast. We're a little bit over halfway through. We want to thank everybody for listening, all the new people who've been signing on and listening. It's been really great. And yes, if you haven't yet, please take a quick minute, leave a rating. If you have 2 minutes, leave a quick review. It would really help us and we would really love it.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Brad, this week, before we start this show, and I haven't talked to you about this, I'm just going to throw this out at you.
We got more shit to throw out. Go it next. Yeah. We'll get to Steve Martin eventually, we swear.
Yeah. Less than a week before this show aired was this SNL Mardi Gras special from New Orleans.
Oh, good call. Yes, we should say that. We haven't forgotten about it. We are going to get to it in our off season. We have a few special SNL specials that we'll do. And yes, we will cover the Mardi Gras special in the off season. So we're not ignoring it or pretending it didn't exist.
Right. Yeah. I thought we should clear that up front here.
Well played, Gary. Well played.
Thank you. Well then, on to this
Before
week's
we
episode.
get to Steve Martin, one more thing. Okay.
Well, we have Steve Martin back, which is always exciting.
Yes.
And the Kinks, which I was very excited about.
I was not that excited, but in hindsight, I should have been.
Really?
I mean, I wasn't not looking forward to them. I was like, whatever, the Kinks. And then they were excellent. I mean, yeah.
No, this was a really fun episode. Again, Steve Martin seeming to be like part of the cast again and like gelling with everyone.
Yeah, I mean, he gelled in the first episode, and even right off the bat from this one, we start, the cold open, and he's in backstage with the guys, and he's one of the fellas, and yeah, like you said, he seems even more just ingrained and part of the cast, which was really fun.
Yeah, his chemistry with the cast is pretty amazing, considering he's only been on once at this point, and it was great. There's not much to say about Steve Martin, right?
There's not much more to say about Steve. We know where he was. He hasn't released Let's Get Small yet. I don't think he's even recorded it yet. It comes out later this year. Yeah. So he hasn't released his album yet. He had, as we said in the last episode, a week after his last appearance, recorded his HBO special, which was his first televised special. So that had aired since then. And other than, doing his stand-up, which he's wildly successful at this time, they mentioned a couple times I think he'd guest hosted The Tonight Show between the last appearance and now. So other than that, it's not much else has changed other than Steve's still on that upward trajectory of ruling comedy in the U.S.
I feel like it's going to work out for this fella.
Yeah, he's doing all right.
Yeah. This show opens on Steve Martin's dressing room door, and he comes out and he's leaving a woman in there that he's like, I'll be right back. And he's confronted by Gilda for having changed since he's guest hosted The Tonight Show, and he hasn't talked to her recently, and he hasn't called, and she's upset that he hasn't called.
It's very reminiscent of the Elliot Gould thread they did.
Yes.
My first thought was like, oh, they're doing this Gilda joke again, but with Steve.
Right.
It still works.
Yeah. And she's like, you haven't called. He's like, I called and I left a message with your answering service about the lotion. Did you get the lotion?
She's like, oh, all right. And that kind of turned her, made everything okay. Yeah.
Right. Which I thought was funny, like a funny STD joke in there.
Hilarious.
Yeah. I believe this is where you normally say 1977, baby.
I'm saving that one, I think.
No, there are quite a few times you can say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then from there, Steve goes to the locker room with John and Garrett and Bill, who are getting ready and slapping each other with towels.
Which was just cool for me just to see. It was like, hey, this is it. This is the first locker room sketch, like the backstage SNL locker room area, which it was fun to see.
Yeah. And they all obviously are feeling some sort of way about Steve Martin at this point. And Bill Murray says, I wasn't here last time you were hosted, but from what I hear, I don't like you very much.
Pretty sure I don't like you very much.
And Belushi goes on to say that it's because of the way he's treated Gilda. None of them are happy with him. And then Steve starts in on some of the bits from his stand-up act that I guess he's touched on Ramblin' Man already with Gilda. Right. And, and then he's like, I don't need you guys. You don't need me and whatever. I don't need to do this. And John is like, no, and grabs his finger and twists it and forces him to say live from New York. Yeah, it was fun. I mean, it was fun to get most of the cast integrated into the sketch and have this weird fourth wall, tension that they're creating between Steve and the cast.
Yeah, it was fine. Meta as is the norm these days with the show. They seem to, their cold opens are going meta, which are great, and it works really well for the show. Like you said, it was fun, and you got to see most of the cast. You saw everybody but Jane, Dan, and Lorraine, and we're going to find out why in a minute, why you don't see them. They really play up on the relationship, as you kind of mentioned, with Steve and the cast. I think there's very few hosts that could play off this, hey, let's be chums in the backstage locker room area and we're all together. Like they do a great job. And I think it's one of the biggest reasons why he's such a good host, especially now that they've done it once with him. They've done it once. He's got the history with the cast a little bit. So that part played really well. And it was a nice open.
Yeah, it was a good open. It was fun to see the guys back in the locker room. Mm-hmm. It was just fun. Yeah. And then Steve comes out for his monologue, which
we should say in the opening credits, they do list, and we'll get into it later, of course, special guest Lily Tomlin, who I believe this is the first time a host has come back as a billed special guest.
I think you're right. Yeah.
You've had like Buck show up randomly next, but yeah. So they just so that, she's a billed guest, which is unique.
Like a duck.
Sure. Glad you said it, not me.
I know. So then Steve comes out for his monologue, and I don't know. I just felt like the beginning of this monologue was really slow for the audience to.
Really? He opens with Happy Feet. I thought it was.
There was no reaction to Happy Feet.
I thought it was pretty good.
No, I know
what you're saying.
I'm just saying I think the audience was not clicking at that moment. But he does. He does a bunch of stuff from his stand-up routine. Happy Feet, Let's Get Small.
I might be wrong, but I thought I read this was the first time he actually publicly, on TV, whatever, did the Let's Get Small bit.
Cop pulls me over. And he makes me get out, and he looks at me and says, hey, are you small? I said, no, I'm not. He said, well, I'm going to have to measure you. And they have this little test they give you. They give you a balloon, and if you can get inside of it, they know you're small. And I've already talked it over with the cast. We've been working all week. It's a tough thing to do, come out here live. Immediately after the show, we're all going to go out and get really small. Okay, we have a great show tonight. Lily Tomlin, special guest, the Kinks, and the not ready for prime time players. So we'll be back in just a moment. Thanks a lot. Good night.
And that was the first time I noticed someone saying, we have a great show, and then talk about the musical guest. And
yeah, that's right. Because it did feel very proper. And I don't mean that in a bad way.
Right.
He came in, was in and out, did a solid monologue. Jokes were great. Stand-up routine. Can't go wrong. And then, he kind of introduced everything. Blah, blah, blah. We'll be right back. That's a good point.
Yeah. And it just felt short because I think I was like, I want more of a Steve Martin stand-up routine like we had the first time he hosted, but it was still good.
No, it was good. I think the show is growing and getting better. And it's like, we don't need a stand-up host to do a 9-minute monologue. You can do 5 and get out because we have a good show ahead of you.
Yeah. And then you mentioned that we didn't see Danny, Jane, or Lorraine. And now we know why, because their first sketch is a Conehead sketch. And that was the first thing I wrote down, actually, was now I know why we didn't see Danny in the locker room.
Yep.
So this is a Conehead sketch with Dan and Jane again.
And they get applause the minute they walk on set. That place, they get applause right away.
They really did.
Yeah.
I was surprised by that, too, because it's only the second time we've seen the Coneheads.
The first one went over really well. Remember, we said it was one of those instances where a lot of times we've seen the recurring characters. The first ones are kind of a miss. Like, in hindsight, they come back. But when you're watching it live, you don't know. And Coneheads was probably the first time that their first outing really hit, because it did hit well. Yeah,
it was good. And Lorraine's going off to school in the morning, and she's going to a Peter Frampton concert, apparently.
Oh, 1977.
You're going to use it on that.
No, I was warming it up. I got to warm it up.
And then Steve comes, and he is an IRS agent who is wondering why they haven't filed taxes before 1968.
At the Con Ed residence.
Yes.
I guess you folks are really into breakfast.
Visitor, we advise you to consume mass quantities of food.
Hey, that's okay. Mr. and Mrs. Conehead, I'm just trying to sort out your tax situation before 68. Now, for the last 9 years, you've only been filing under the name Mr. and Mrs. Conehead. Do you have a first name?
I am Beldar. I am Primat.
Okay, Beldar Conehead. That's great. Now, it says here you're currently employed as a driving school instructor.
Correct.
Hey, isn't this the drink the astronauts took to the moon?
Astronauts to the moon.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the
This is a classic
Conehead
sketch. This is
sketches.
the one you see in the clips, yeah.
So good. So funny. And the look of disbelief on Steve's face as he's watching them drink the Tang and eat the eggs and drink the beer. He's just like...
Well, as Dan pops the cap on all 6 beers in the 6-pack and then starts... And Jane does a great... Like, Dan, you expect him just to shove eggs in his mouth. But like Jane's shoving food in her mouth and drinking. She does a great job. Yeah, it's a great sketch. And we brushed over the whole first half where it's them with Connie, the daughter, and they're making all these same jokes about how, even aliens don't understand their teenagers, and they tell exaggerated stories from when they were a kid.
Right,
that was all really funny. And she leaves as Steve comes in. And I think Steve does a great job as the straight man trying to ask all these questions for the IRS form and just setting up all the coneheadness of it.
Yeah.
I thought he did really good. And I thought it was a great second outing. And they really kept the momentum going from that first sketch. I think it really helped they got the host in on this one. I like the fact that they had the host in. And of course, it was Steve. And you can see why this is going to pop up several times for the next few seasons.
Right. And the writing on this is still just so, I mean, it's so Dan, but it's so well done. Because to your point, when they're talking about not relating to their teenager, he takes old tropes like walking to school uphill in snow, and he just flip-flops all the words so that they're different and they're alien. Mm-hmm. And it's brilliant. The writing is just really tight.
Yeah, it's great. I think we said this last time we saw it. It was created by Dan and Tom Davis. And, they've been trying to do these characters in some form for a while. Originally, Dan had this idea. I think they were originally called like Pinhead Lawyers from France was an idea he had. And he was trying to work it out. And him and Davis were working things. And then they wanted them to be aliens. And there's a story that both of them have told where over the Christmas hiatus or Christmas holiday break, they both went to the Easter Islands and they were on vacation and they saw the islands and the pointed heads. And that's what really made it click for the two of them. So then they came back and even the first iteration they had of this was they tried doing this with Buck. And the first iteration of Coneheads in general was not a family, but it was something called Blind Dates from Outer Space. And it was two girls that were trying to get picked up by two aliens that pulled over in a flying saucer. And Buck didn't want to do it. He didn't like the idea. And I think they didn't technically think they could pull it off, with the flying saucer and all this kind of stuff. So it went away. And Lauren's the one who had the idea of trying to, I think, make it a family unit, put them in suburbia. And so they kept percolating and kept working it through. And then finally we get what we all know now as, Coneheads, the family unit and trying to hide in suburban New Jersey.
Oh, it's still so much fun to watch.
Oh, it's so good.
No matter how many times I've seen this particular sketch, I was still like, oh, this is so much fun. So good.
I mean, yes, I had forgotten that we said this is the one they always tend to quote.
Yeah.
This is the one that you see the most, I think.
Right. You know what I felt like we also saw before was the costume that Garrett's in the next bit.
That's the costumes that they wore at the end of the Fran Tarkin episode of The Good Nights. Totally. Right. That's my first note.
Yeah, mine too. But it's no one else. It's just Garrett. And he comes out with a pianist and a violinist. And he starts singing.
Good luck with this. Good luck. Go ahead.
I'm going to.
It's all you.
Nerver die Schenschucht Kent.
Sure.
Or something. And it turns into a Chiron bit. So it references the New Orleans show. And it references that after that show, Garrett went to Jamaica and fell in love. And he told this woman the truth, that he was a singer and his name is Harry Belafonte.
Funny joke.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. I was surprised they didn't show the woman. They say she's in the audience tonight, and I was expecting them to cut away to her.
We'll get to that. I agree with you. Yes.
Yeah. But that's the bit. It's another Chiron bit where Garrett is singing beautifully.
Yes.
Again. And it's just, I feel like this is a way to get Garrett in the show, unfortunately.
Throw him in an old costume that we had from last month.
Yeah. And have him sing.
Yeah. I didn't love it. And only because I feel like you had mentioned, we've seen this sketch before.
Right.
We've seen Garrett sing while you put Chirons on up and make a joke. And I feel if we hadn't seen it, this probably would have been really funny. I did like the Harry Belafonte of it all was funny. And there's the one line where there's a line about if the girl's in the audience and she can't see this, don't tell her. But then if you're Harry Belafonte and you're watching this from home, be happy that once again, you've brought two young lovers together.
Yeah. I thought that was a good line.
But as you were saying, they finished this sketch. And as you mentioned, they say the woman's in the audience and then they go to the audience for an outro Chiron.
Yes.
Which was just so weird because they make this joke about the woman Garrett trying to woo being in the audience and they go to some random woman with a completely different Chiron. That to me just
unrelated Chiron.
Yes. And that's what I felt. It was this just feels weird.
Yeah. It was a missed opportunity, I thought. If you're going to do a Chiron joke.
Either do that or go to a dude. Don't go to a woman. It was even the fact that it was a woman was even weirder.
Well, the other part of it too is that Dan, Jane, and Lorraine are out because they're now getting their cone heads off. And what we know now is that Bill, John, and Gilda are getting set for the celebrity weightlifting bit, which is next. So Billy comes on as the announcer talking about the celebrity weightlifting, and John comes out as a big Russian guy. And he lifts, I think it's 250 kilograms, I believe. And then he's competing against Jackie Kennedy Onassis. And Gilda comes out as Jackie O. And she's trying to bend over discreetly in her dress and pick up the weights. And damn, Gilda does an amazing job of physical comedy in those heels.
Yet again, Gilda does an amazing job, yes, with physical comedy. How she plays the weight and the struggle and the getting it up with her skinny frame. She does a phenomenal job.
She really did. I mentioned the heels because I realized watching it halfway through, I was like, man, she's doing a great job. Oh, she's in heels.
Well, she's in heels and she's got that knee length skirt. So she can't bend over. Yeah. She does, she side steps and kind of bends to the side with her knees. So she can't, she has the worst possible angle to pick it up. It's just the whole outfit. Yes, is just a genius way to make her struggle even more.
Yeah. And I mean, the whole thing is just silly. And then she gets pinned underneath it. And she says that she broke her collarbone. And yeah, it was really funny, but it was silly.
It is funny. It is silly. Overall, for me, I agree with you. Like, Gilda's great.
Yeah.
John's fine.
Yeah.
He does everything he has to do is really good. Bill, not so great, but I missed the host. I thought there's no reason for the host not to be in it. So it's kind of a mixed bag.
Yeah. Unless he just didn't want to do 2 straight characters in a row. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Then we get Lorraine back. So she's out of her Conehead costume and she comes on just to introduce the Kinks. This is where I actually missed the host because I was like, why isn't he hasn't been around now for a little bit?
Oh, that's a good point. You know why I didn't miss it? Because Lorraine seems so excited.
She was so excited.
That I didn't miss it.
I know.
Steve, but it's a good point what you say.
Yeah. But it did seem like one of those things where she was like really excited that the Kinks were there and was like, can I just introduce them?
I get to introduce the Kinks?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, totally.
It was awesome. And they come out and they start singing You Really Got Me, which is great.
Yeah.
I love that song. And then they go right into All Day, All Night. And I was like, oh, we're doing a Kinks medley?
Mhm.
Okay.
Apparently we are.
And that's exactly what it was. And then they go into Well Respected Man. And then they go into Lola.
Yeah. It's like a greatest hits medley.
Yeah, it was kind of strange, but whatever. I love the Kinks. I thought it was fun.
It's a little rushed at times.
Yeah, I could see that.
You know what it was? Because you weren't expecting the medley.
Right.
So especially when it went from You Really Got Me to All Day and All Night, you're like, wait, what's going on?
Yeah.
And then by then you realize they're doing the medley and then it's fine. And you buy the ticket and you take the ride and you're in for it. Fantastic performance. I mean, damn it. I hate to say this. They might have been better than the band.
Well, I mean, I wasn't going to say it because I didn't want to start an argument.
I mean, it's not fair. They're playing a greatest hits show. So, but goddamn, they're good.
Yeah.
At what point did you start singing along?
At the very beginning.
I made it till Lola, but I definitely was singing along by the time they got to Lola.
I was really happy they played Well Respected Man because I feel like that's a song that I don't hear enough when people play the Kinks, and I really like that song.
Ray Davies is an amazing frontman.
Yeah, I know.
He does a really great job of playing to the crowd, but also like playing to the camera when he needs to, which I feel this is the first time I've really noticed the musical guest actually playing to the camera at times.
Yeah.
And I thought it really helped as a viewer, like the performance.
I was wondering, how much do these brothers hate each other right now at this point in time? I'm kind of curious. 1977.
Yeah, I don't know when that all went south. That's a good because they both look like they had a good time. They were both having fun. They put on a great show. This was this is probably the best musical act we've seen. Again,
I think it is the best musical act we've seen.
Well,
the Kinks got me going, got me feeling good. Then we go into Weekend Update.
Yeah. Oh,
Jane starts with no, I'm not there yet. Not yet. Jane starts with I have a headache joke. Not tonight. I have a headache.
Something about her body language when they came in, you could just tell she was going to reference the previous week. They come in on her and they introduce Jane Curtin, and just something about the way she was sitting and carrying herself. I knew she was going to reference that. Yeah.
It was interesting because I felt the same way. I was like, oh, what's she going to do? And then she just throws that line.
Which I thought was really funny. Not tonight, I have a headache. I thought it was great. How great is Jane?
She is great. She does a Johnny Carson joke right off the bat saying that he's going to do his show live, which is different because he's been doing it dead for 15 years.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, everything else was fine. The first bit was fine.
Like the Cincinnati joke, something about they were the court and
Greenwich
the people
Village,
from Cincinnati are sentenced to go live in Cincinnati. And she had a great flub where she messed up the joke, and instead of trying to save it, literally just goes back to the very beginning and starts on the top. I liked it. I liked that for her. That's good for you.
I did too. It was something different. And our commercial this week.
Of different.
Yeah. We get another live commercial. Yeah. This one is with Gilda as Dr. Breadloaf, who is a diet doctor who wrote a diet book. And the diet is simple because you eat the book, essentially.
I like the name. I like the character name, Dr. Breadloaf.
Yeah. Exactly.
You're writing a quick lost diet book, Dr. Breadloaf?
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, it was silly. Gilda eating the book.
Yeah. First you eat page 1. Lunch you have page 2. A hearty dinner of page 3 and 4. This strikes me as like a Tom Davis, I'm completely stoned sketch. I don't know who wrote it, but this just feels like one of either him or Franken, but one of those knuckleheads are completely stoned and come up with this idea. Unless it was Zweibel, because I mean, it's Gilda, so it could be Zweibel, but it just feels like a complete stoner sketch.
Yeah, that's funny. Then we come back to Jane for a few jokes, but then we go to Lorraine, who is up in the air on some giant aircraft flying command post with Dan, who's dressed as an Air Force, I don't know, general. They have generals in the Air Force.
Pilot. I don't know, guy in the sky.
Pilot. Sure. A guy in the sky, Dan Aykroyd. And they're talking about this plane that they are in is the flying command center. So if there's a nuclear attack, the president can be up in the sky within 10 minutes and can command everything from there, from this giant plane. And Dan does his Dan thing where he explains details about weapons and everything.
Jane, I'm standing inside the electronic core of the Defense Department's Executive Command Flying Post. With me is Major General Robert Lizette, who is responsible for the maintenance of this complex aircraft. Mr. Lizette, what is this control panel we're looking at here?
Okay, this is a warning signal transmitting an arming console, WSTAC. We call it Stacy.
And what is Stacy's function?
Okay. In the instance of a nuclear confrontation, President Carter can be inside the plane and airborne within 10 minutes. Now, through this console, he's hooked into the command data buffer system in Colorado. He can then program, cancel, and reset enemy targets from on board the aircraft.
I see. Well, General, with all the flying weaponry which would be airborne during a nuclear attack, isn't a big airplane like this particularly vulnerable to, say, a small heat-seeking or laser-guided device?
Yeah, I guess so. Now that you mention it,
This is Lorraine Newman aboard the expensive and dangerous flying command post.
You'd see whatever's going to hit you on this little screen here. You'd see it before it hit.
Mm-hmm. Taking it back to you.
That was funny. Her calling out Dan, and that was good. The rest of it was kind of but it was a funny end.
That being the big joke of that bit, I thought was good. I liked it. We come back and Jane does some more jokes, some Tom Snyder jokes this time. I don't. That was it.
I'm making a update.
Yeah, it was fine. Yeah, it wasn't a great weekend update, but it was fine.
She's done what now? 3? No, not counting those first 2.
Done, this is her 8th show.
No, as update host.
Yeah, not counting the 2 that Chevy was out for. Right, you're saying
right.
So he was only in the first.
So he was up
6
to 6
episodes,
right?
Yeah, and this is episode
Jesus
14. Christ. So that's math.
It is math. It's my understanding there'd be no math. No, my point is though, I feel like Jane's quote unquote fines are better than Chevy's fines. I feel like her averages are better than what his averages were. If that makes sense.
It makes sense. I agree with you. I also think part of it is that we are both biased. The Jane versus Chevy bias.
So. As somebody who's not a Chevy fan, I really liked his updates and I appreciated what they were, but I feel like his were a bit more up and down, high highs, low lows.
Yeah.
Jane may not have the higher highs, but she definitely doesn't have the lower lows. And I think that's
well, she also doesn't have the arrogance and attitude of Chevy when a joke doesn't hit. Right. So
and they're also more experienced with her. Like they've been doing it for a year and a half now. Like Chevy, they were on the fly. So a little bit of credit towards that, I guess. But yeah, I do overall feel like she's handling it and keeping it afloat a little bit better. But
yeah.
Is Steve still on this episode? Holy shit.
Well, luckily.
Oh, he is in
Steve
the next
is in the next bit.
For about 5 seconds.
He is.
Right.
Yeah, it opens with him talking to Lily Tomlin.
I knew what we were going to, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, not Steve.
No, he's there at the beginning. And it's weird because the camera goes to Steve and Lily talking, and then you hear someone off stage go places, and Lily goes back into the kitchen of the luncheonette set.
Yeah, I like this whole thing.
And then she comes back, and it's Steve then introduces Lily Tomlin at this lunch counter. And she goes on to talk about how when she was starting out in the 30s in this business, she met Gilda and Jane and Lorraine, and they all had this dream to make it to Broadway someday. And this is all a setup for Lily's Broadway show.
I thought it was really fun to see Steve and Lily Tomlin together. Just watching them interact. Nothing happens, but it was fun to just see these two like comedic legends just in a sketch.
Lily starts singing Broadway Baby, She was written for the musical Follies. And she is eventually joined by Gilda and then Lorraine and then Jane. And then they all four sing together. I thought it was great. I thought it was wonderful to see them all singing. I thought they were all excellent. This was a lot of fun. And this felt like, I was thinking about this when I was watching it. I feel like Lily is interacting with the other three women more in this sketch than she did in her first two hosting gigs. Right?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Lily. Special guest, Lily Tomlin.
Yes.
She will make her Broadway debut next month in her one-woman show called Appearing Nightly. So she's obviously in New York at the time rehearsing. I was looking back. So this is her third appearance on the show in less than a year and a half, which is kind of nuts.
Yeah.
I think only more kind of jaw-dropping or whatever is she won't then appear again until season 8. She hosts in season after Lauren leaves.
Oh, wow.
And then she only ever shows up once more in a pre-tape during season 44.
Really?
Yeah. So somebody who you really think of her with the show in these early years of the show, it's 3 appearances in the first, whatever, year and a half, how many episodes.
Yeah.
Comes back non-Lauren era. So hosts when he's not with the show anymore, and then doesn't do a cameo, doesn't do a drop-in, doesn't do anything. And then she's in it's like a Frankie and Johnny or whatever that Jane Fonda show she has. They did a pre-tape.
Interesting.
But yeah, I mean, she's huge at this point. But again, about to do a Broadway show. The sketch itself, I agree with you. I think this was really great. I love the opening. I thought it was a fun, interesting way to segue into the song as opposed to just saying, ladies and gentlemen, Lily Tomlin. Like, it was a fun way to do it. She had really great quick changes for her and Lorraine. When we first see them, they're both dressed as waitresses. And then,
well, you could see, they all were. You could see underneath of their costumes.
I didn't notice it that much on her and Lorraine. Jane and Gilda are like customers in the diner, so they're wearing overcoats, so they were easily hidden. But right. I thought the Lorraine and Lily change was great just to see. And then it ends with Joe Disco, the stage manager, coming on. And I wish I could have heard what he said to them, because he comes on and says something, and that's how the sketch ends. And I feel like it just would have been funny or a nice tag. And I wish I could have heard what he said.
I agree.
Question.
Answer. Are we doing word association?
Yes.
No.
Has this show missed yet when they've had the 3 ladies do a song?
Oh, that's interesting. As far as the singing?
Like, I don't think so. Like, every time they've done a musical number with those 3 ladies, it's excellent.
Yes, I agree.
Even ones I didn't like the history of television.
The TV one?
And their performance,
they were great. That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
And this was awesome. And you got to give props, I'd say, to the choreography and the directing on this, because they don't miss a beat, especially for this being live. How many times were we watching Weekend Update and they can't find the right camera at the right time? And for all the movement of these 4 women around the diner, moving and dancing and singing, I mean, it's legitimately flawless. I don't think there's a mess up in this entire sketch. So you got to give credit to that.
This was the moment in the show where I stopped watching to look up the date of the New Orleans taping, because I was like, maybe I'm wrong about this.
Oh, like they had like 2 weeks to work on this before. Or something?
Well, yeah, just sometime, anytime, really. But they didn't, because the New Orleans show was the the Sunday before.
Maybe they knew what a shit show that was, and like they're coming back with Steve, so they're like, we tried to show off on primetime and fell flat on our faces. Did not work. 98% of what we wanted did not come out. Let's go back to what we can do. We got Steve. You got somebody who can make it work. Let's pull in a ringer with Lily Tomlin to bail us out for 15 minutes.
Sure.
But I know I hear what you're saying. Yeah, something like
because
this.
if you're going to have Lily Tomlin bail you out, then you do a sketch like Tess or something.
Well, you
like
do the short film that she does later on. Like, that made sense.
Right. But I mean, I was just thinking like a long sketch that she carries, like the Tess one, right? That would be a great thing to put in here. But no, they go for it with the 4 women singing and dancing, and it's excellent.
This is excellent.
That really surprised me with the timing. That's all. I was like, wow, this was impressive. Even more impressive thinking about the time.
I didn't think about it, just coming back from New Orleans. It was fun. A lot of fun.
Well, Jane throws her overcoat back on so that she can play the mother in the next sketch. In the hospital, she plays the mother. Bill plays the father of their son, John, who is lying in a hospital bed in a coma. And Dr. Steve Martin is telling them that their son is so close to death and that they should pull the plug on him, and mentions that it's $500 a day. And then Bill changes his tune and is like, oh, maybe we should.
Steve is great, right off the bat, where he tells them that John is, in the coma, and his birthday's coming up
Tomorrow.
And Steve's like, well, what should we get him for his birthday? He's like, I should just mosh for his north side. And the parents get pissed, like, I'm just trying to light things up. It's so funny. Even if Bill had a couple issues with the lines, you could tell I think he had a little bit of problems, but it's just really funny.
Kathy, I never told you this, but about a year ago, Buddy came to me and he said, Dad, if I'm ever in a bad accident at work and I'm hit in the head with a sledgehammer and lapse into a coma and have to be kept alive by a machine, I want to die with dignity. So please pull the plug.
Well, if that's the way that Buddy wants it, then pull the plug.
Accidentally. Accidentally.
Accidentally.
Okay, well, hey, I've got to run up to surgery. I'm kind of late right now, so I'll probably be taking off. See you later. They're calling me. Oh, no. My leg is tangled in the cord. It could cut off the circulation. Help me.
In case you don't get hurt. Here, let me get your foot out.
Yeah, maybe we can just pull on this.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. I'm not in a coma anymore.
Buddy.
Oh, what were you doing? Were you pulling the plug on me?
Buddy, the doctor told us you were a vegetable.
I, for one, am baffled.
Pulling the plug.
This is a great sketch.
I've really enjoyed this.
This is another one that for the first, 15, 20 years was always on the highlight reels.
Yeah.
Really funny. And then they pull it back into Steve. So at the end, the parents leave and John walks up because he wakes up, of course, like chipper as all hell. and Bill convinces him that they had the conversation. Don't you remember that time when you told me if you got up the sledgehammer? No, I don't remember that. He goes, well, I don't think you were acting yourself that day. I remember. This doesn't sound like Buddy, but maybe you just forget. He's like, yeah, maybe I forget. And Bill gives Steve shit like, thanks, doctor, for almost having us kill our son, which was a great Bill deadpan. Then they leave it for the camera to swing back to Steve and excuse me and get that laugh. So,
which is the second time he's done that in the show tonight. Yeah.
But I agree. I think this is really funny. Performances are all great. Bill's, dialogue issues notwithstanding, were all really good. I think it was really smart. I think it was well played. This is a great sketch. I think this is a really great small sketch.
I totally agree.
So much so it carried me through the next piece.
Did it?
What? No, go ahead.
Well, so Garrett comes on stage and introduces a film about Buster Holmes' restaurant in New Orleans, where he's from.
One of Garrett's better intros.
It was.
I.e., more coherent.
But it also felt like he was excited about this place. Like he knows this place, right? And so that was good. He didn't introduce it as a Gary Weiss film.
Well, they cut him off, didn't they? Wasn't he like talking and they just faded into it?
Maybe.
I think they cut him off. I'm pretty sure they cut him off. I mean, I don't know purposely or not, but it did feel like he was talking and then the film just started.
Yeah. And it is a film about this restaurant run by Buster Holmes, interviewing Buster Holmes on the food that he cooks and the meatloaf and the chicken and the beans and rice, and that they have the best soul food in New Orleans at this place. And man, it looked really good. I mean, this is one of those Gary Weiss films that I tend to like more than you. This one just made me hungry, though. There was no character. There was no funny bit in it.
This is like a documentary.
Right?
It was like a short documentary. And it was a nice nod to the New Orleans trip. I took this as it's the second time they acknowledge where they were. And it was, it's a straight up like mini documentary about this restaurant. So and you knew it going in, like right away, you knew this wasn't trying to be funny.
Yeah.
So it's just like, all right, it's cool. It's like a little thank you to New Orleans, which I liked it.
That's a film by Gary Weiss, which takes us into a game show of Hollywood Bingo.
Yes.
And this is just like a play on Hollywood squares. And Steve comes out as the host, and it's a bingo card. So it's, 5 over and 5 across. So he has to introduce all 25 of these characters, and there is a free space in the middle, which he does introduce. And anyway, it's everyone in the cast doing a different impression, and they're just real quick hits.
This is like the original, quote unquote, let's get the whole cast and writing staff out to do various impressions of everybody who can think of sketch.
Yes. We get Charo, we get Sammy Davis Jr., Sandy Duncan, which I just thought was a random one. There are a whole lot. I think you're right. Every writer, every cast member.
I was wondering if you were going to come with a full-on list and just like barrel through them all. Because that's really all there is to do about this is literally say who played who and what, because that's all the jokes really are.
That's all it is. But what I thought was funny was Steve, he has little interactions with the cast. And then as he goes through the bingo card more, he just has to start rattling through them. And he's just talking so fast.
And he has a lot to say.
And now, a Fonzie lookalike, Stuffy Hillers. 067. Okay, now, I don't know who he is. Okay, let's see, under the beam. Let's welcome Trink Mexico. Trink is sort of in the national touring company of Love on a Pin. Okay, now the sensational Sonia Boardwalk. Sonia is currently appearing on Hollywood Bingo. Okay, that brings us up to the Charlie Weaver Memorial Free Square. And Charlie will be appearing nowhere. Charlie would have loved that joke. Next, G56, a real nun and a real cop to boot. It's Sister Mary Margaret Mary, the Nutty Nun. Hey, isn't she funny? How about 072 Cycling, but Cy will understudy Rip Taylor in the LA production of Dial In for Nerder. And under the B, never saw him before, don't know who he is, never seen him before, not sure about him, and we're not sure about this person either, ladies and gentlemen, but we do believe this next person right along here is Woody Allen's sister. All right, now, under the B, it's Garth Luntro, road manager for Mickey Dolenz. Now, I-28 Fern husband. Fern just finished making King Kong, in which she played a frightened person. Okay, say hi to Harold Giblon Butcher. Harold will be appearing behind the meat counters weekdays till 6. Now, G49, that's her old cousin, he's a Libra. And now, finally, 073, Joni from next door. Joni eats food. And those are our stars tonight on Hollywood Bingo. Hey, we're all out of time. Don't have time to play the game, but tune in next week for 25 different stars. We'll plug 25 different things. Goodbye, stars!
Yes.
Luckily, most of the sketch is cutaways to the celebrities he's talking about, so it allows him to literally just fucking read down the cue cards.
Yeah.
Because this is nonstop Steve. Maybe there's a couple of them have lines, but the vast majority is just Steve barreling through everybody.
I think like most of the cast has a line and Franken gets a line, and then everyone else is just kind of like barreling through. But yeah, it's a lot. I mean, they literally go through 25 celebrities in this.
I liked Gilda's Charo. She's like, hoocha, hoocha,
yeah, that
hoocha.
was funny.
Lily does Farrah Fawcett. No lines. She's just like wearing a wig and shakes her head.
That was a good one.
And I love the row he did where he didn't know anybody. And he ends on somebody that they think is Woody Allen's sister. Dan Beats in glasses. Those were my favorites of them all.
You saw Dan as Vincent Price. That was funny.
John was Robert Blake. Garrett does Sammy Davis Jr. again.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, what is there, 25, 24 people?
25, yeah. Well,
where in the hell is Neil Levy?
I thought he was in here. No, maybe not. Again, they went so fast towards the end that I couldn't.
No, he's not. He's not in. Alan Rubin's in there. Howard Shore's in there.
Yes, Howard Shore's in there. That's right. It was everybody except for Neil Levy, apparently.
Yeah. God damn it, Neil.
Well, then Lily comes out to introduce this week's home movie. And I immediately thought, are we up for another Mr. Bill?
Right,
no.
It was a home movie, that's right.
And it was, I forget now who she said it was produced by, Lily Tomlin.
Oh, Lily Tomlin and Friends, or Lily, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. And it is just a home movie of Lily playing all of her characters, and they are taking a road trip to New York City to go to Broadway.
From the Big Orange to the Big Apple.
This was just an ad in my mind for her Broadway show. Yeah. That's what it felt like we were watching.
They played this short at the start of her Broadway show. Like this was the intro to her show.
This was the intro to the show?
Yeah, like on her show that she played this. So an ad, and also like, here's what we have to start our show.
Really? This is what I feel like they should have done a little higher quality production if they were going to show this at the beginning of a Broadway show.
1977, baby. They didn't know what HD was back then.
Well, I know that, but they didn't have to shoot it on Super 8 either.
I don't know. You didn't. Wow, you didn't like this, huh?
It was fine. There was nothing to it really. I was just like, oh, this is just a way for us to see all of Lily Tomlin's. We just went through that whole impression sketch, and I felt like this was just the Lily Tomlin version of that. Like, I'm going to get all of my characters in here really quick that you can see on Broadway.
But these are characters, not impressions.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying it's akin to that because it's just like one after the other after the other.
Huh.
It was fine.
I actually like this. I thought it was fun watching her play literally every single character. There's like 5 of them in the car, and she plays a guy pumping gas at one point. And I mean, and it was funny because at this point now, and I am not a big Lily Tomlin fan, but because
You're acting like one.
But because of her history on the show, I actually recognize many of these characters because she would do them on SNL. So even if you're not a big Lily Tomlin fan, you could kind of appreciate this a little bit. At least I did, because I'm like, oh, that's Tess. That's the college girl. Yeah. That's Ernestine who works at the phone company. So I appreciated that. And I mean, I get it. They wanted to give Lily time to shine. She's a big deal. Yeah. And it did feel like a nice change of pace a little bit, the short film. I didn't mind that it wasn't live. Like a lot of times I feel like I complain there's too many pre-recorded bits, but I didn't mind this that much. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the whole why introduce it as a home movie thing didn't make sense to me either. I
mean, I hear what you're saying. It didn't bother me. I thought they were just having fun with the whole home movie gag. And maybe, no. I was going to say maybe that's why they shot it so crappy, to like that home movie gag.
Yeah, no,
but it doesn't answer your question then of like, well, then why would you do this to then show a Broadway show? But I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Much like this next sketch.
I was going to say, you're talking about Roots 2?
It is what it is. Oh, man. Roots 2, Garrett comes out as Alex Haley, talks about how he made Roots for ABC. It took him 12 years to write that. NBC wanted Roots 2, so they gave him $3 million. So he wrote a script in 4 days.
Oh, you're done. Okay. Shit. I actually thought this was going to have potential. Just thinking back to all the other sequels that you would think never would have been made that they've done, like Jaws 2, Exorcist 2, Citizen Kane 2. Like they have a pretty good track record of these things. So with that in mind, when I saw Roots 2, I was like, okay, this will be good. But this would be really good if we had a guest right now.
To make them talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of all over the place. It's it's here, it's there. It's kind of commenting on Alex Haley. He comes and he goes. He comes back at the end and like signs some girl's book and like sends her on her way. It's like. And then he like says something about how he's doing Roots 3 for CBS next year. So it's like, there's just a lot going on, and this doesn't hold up now. But I would also wonder how well it held up then, just as a sketch and cohesion of it all. Just felt all over the place to me.
You know what holds up though? The Kinks. The Kinks come back and they sing Sleepwalker. Mm-hmm. And I just
did you know this song?
I did.
Really?
I don't love this song, but
I did not.
But this comes out like right after the show or around the show time, right?
I saw that. Yeah, this is the title track of their album that came out, I think, later that month or something. Yeah.
And I think it does okay for them.
It does fairly well. Well, I think we kind of mentioned, they do their greatest hits from songs of a decade ago. So I think it's been a little while since the Kinks have had a really big song, but you're right. I think this was a pretty good song for them. Yeah.
There's such a tight band. To your point, right? They've been playing together for like 15 years at this point.
This was their 16th album.
Yeah.
They formed in 63. So what's the math? 14 years?
Yeah.
16 albums. So yeah, they know what they're doing.
Totally.
Like I said, I didn't know the song. And it's one of those rare instances where I'm watching a musical guest and I don't know the song they're playing, but I really enjoyed watching it.
Yeah. They are one of those bands that I wish I could have seen live at their peak, or even not their peak, just like at some point. Yeah. And then like Ray Davies comes running at the camera and like jumps off the stage. Yeah.
This is where I wrote the note actually of him being such a great frontman and playing to the camera, because I was enjoying the first one so much. The first performance, I didn't write a lot of notes, and this one, since I didn't know the song and I was really just watching, like he's great.
Yeah,
singing to the crowd, and he'll look just slightly to the left, right into camera, and play to camera is really good.
He is. Well, after that great performance by the Kinks, we get a scene with just Gilda and Steve at a singles bar where they're just meeting for the first time. And it turns out that they have so many things in common.
You know, it's funny. We've only been together here like 10 minutes, and already we have a lot in common. Yeah.
I know.
And it's really amazing. I mean, like, what do you do for a living?
Oh, I calibrate the pressure ratios for hydraulic valve systems.
So do I! Oh, it's amazing. What'd you do before that?
Well, I folded the little clear plastic index tabs that separate the sections in notebooks.
I did too!
Oh, no!
I can't believe it.
This
It's
is
incredible.
incredible.
And listen, what does your tongue taste like to you?
Nothing. It has no flavor.
Really? Neither does mine. Oh.
Oh, wow.
What's your favorite loud noise?
Oh, I don't know. I like all of them.
You must have a special favorite
I don't
one.
have a favorite. I like them all equal.
What about when you turn on the bathtub water and it doesn't come out right away, and then suddenly it just all comes out?
I love that.
I thought this was a fun sketch. It was just like a
Silly
silly
and fun.
It felt like a silly, perfect combination of Steve Martin and Gilda Radner, this silly back and forth of things, and just being like, me too. I love it when blah, blah, blah. And then they both
silly
hop
and
off.
absurd nonsense.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Of course. Me too. Oh my God. Yeah. Like they get up and shall we leave? And they both grab one leg and they hop away. You like to hop everywhere? I do too.
Yes.
And they just hop into darkness. It's hard not to like either of them.
Yeah.
And it's really hard not to like just the two of them. And I think this is a really great, this is like a hint of like what's going to come with them.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm talking about Dancing in the Dark next season, like
Right.
the all-time Steve Gilda sketch.
Yeah.
And it's a great bookend from the two of them at the start of the show, I thought. That's what I really thought.
Exactly.
They started the show with them one way, and then you end with them together, and I thought it was a really cool bookend of the episode.
Totally agree. Totally. It was my first thought when I saw the two of them was like, oh, this is a nice way to wrap up the show. And I like both of them with this understated comedy. It's not like some crazy character that we've seen both of them play at different times or whatever. It's just the two of them and it's just dialogue until the very end when it's that physical piece. But I thought it was so well done and they were just so good together.
Because they both can play absurd so straight.
Yeah.
And that's
exactly
what's funny. And the two of them do it together. Like, yeah.
It was excellent. And that's
There
it.
you go.
That's our show. A solid show. Like it was really
Pretty
good.
good.
I really enjoyed it.
Pretty good. I mean,
Yeah.
not that he didn't really have it, but he really seemed to find his footing as the host. Like he was comfortable and seemed to be integrate well the first episode, but just felt even more so this one. The cast felt comfortable with him more. I think that whole opening of him in the cold open backstage with the guys, I think really set that up for you.
Yeah.
Just feeling comfortable with him. But yeah, solid. I mean, it's one of the best episodes I think we've seen all season.
Oh, I totally agree with you. Yeah.
The only thing I would say, I think the Lily Tomlin stuff is very good. That Broadway Baby thing is great. I liked the short film.
Yeah.
But part of it kind of feels like it takes away from a Steve Martin episode. If that makes sense.
I totally agree with you. Yes, I totally agree with you. Again, I'm going to just go back to the whole New Orleans was 6 days ago. And so they needed to, you said it before, like they needed that padding from somewhere.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And Lily's the perfect person.
Yeah. And I'm not saying it's bad and this is a bad episode. It's just like when at the end of the season, we start talking about best episodes of the season. I have a feeling this one will not make my very top because it was so much taken away from the host and taken away well. I guess taken away well because she does a great job. I mean, they're two great bits.
I don't disagree with you. I will say every time he's on screen, Steve Martin is fantastic in this episode, whether he's the straight man.
Roots too?
I was getting to that. I was going to say I'm discounting Roots too, but I felt like everything you just didn't like that he didn't hit John hard enough.
He didn't do anything really. I mean, it was
well, I mean, maybe he was like, I don't need to do a lot in this sketch if you don't need me.
Let me introduce you to Dan Aykroyd.
Yes, exactly.
Have you met my friend Dan? Yeah.
He's probably like, you should give this Neil Levy kid a shot at something.
Steve turns around like, did Buck turn this one down? What's going on, guys? But no, I mean, this is It's definitely one of the best ones we've seen this season, though. Yeah, great episode. And you've said it. It's a great point. Coming only a week off of that Mardi Gras debacle, it's even more impressive what they pulled together.
Yeah, it really is. Well, Brad, what are your best bits?
I go Coneheads. I think this is the kind of quintessential Coneheads. Celebrity weightlifting is great with Gilda. Gilda just steals the show on that one. And I liked the pull the plug sketch. I think it's so well written and so funny and well performed. And those three are just, I think, all classic bits.
Yeah. I had Coneheads, obviously. Pull the plug was the second one for me where I was like, yep, this is watching it. I was like, this is best bits. And celebrity weightlifting is up there for me. Absolutely. I thought it was a really strong episode. And I thought those, even the ones that I didn't love, like the Hollywood bingo, I was just impressed with Steve more than anyone in that.
That's a great sketch. Yeah, that's a great sketch. Steve does a great job rambling through all that. It is kind of funny again because we had seen it before, but like just seeing that many people on stage doing that many different things was fun. Like they do a great job.
Yeah. Well, next week we're talking about season 2, episode 15 with host Sissy Spacek and musical guest Richard Baskin. Until then, good night.
Good night.
Have a pleasant tomorrow. The Not Ready for Primetime podcast is a 2 Pints Productions production. Produced and edited by Brad and Gary. Thought about by Brad and Gary. Please rate and review. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.